out of the team for termination while
FA Cup champions.
Lots going on the field, lots going on off the field as well, but let's stick to the rugby. That's what we'd like to talk about here on The Breakdown. You're on ThePapare.com. Lots of action on and off the field this week, and let's look at what happened on the field before we talk about what happened off it. St. Joseph's took on Zahira in one of the matches at the Zahira College ground, and it was probably Zahira's best game of the season. 26 points to 12 is how it finished, but St. Joseph's managed to come through and win that one comfortably in the end. They were leading at half-time, but Zahira coming back and winning the second half, and that was a big thing for them as well, because they missed a few kicks at goal, but at the same time they managed to construct some decent tries and break through that Josephian defense. And Joes will need to work on that defense coming up in their next game against St. Peter's, and Zahira will count themselves lucky that they were able to get back and really compete in that game in the second half. They just managed to concede too many points in the first half. Guys like Gamunu Chethi are breaking that line. Hashan Maduranga also a lethal finisher. So with guys like that in the Josephian pack, you can't get in the back line, you can't give them any kind of room. So that's exactly what Zahira did in the first half. You can see that lack of experience, but when they got their instructions in the second half, they managed to really tighten their game up and take the game to Zahira, to St. Joseph's. 26 points to 12 was how that one finished. Unfortunately for Zahira, they missed their coach for most of that game as well, because they had Shamli Nawaz yellow carded by referee Aruna Shantha. Lots of controversy in that game, but anyway, that was how it finished. 26 points to 12. We had Isipathana taking on Trinity in what we thought was going to be the closest match of the season last week, and it was actually one of the closest matches of the season. You couldn't really find a point between the two teams. Trinity and Isipathana finishing 12-all on the day at Havelock Park. It was the first draw of the season that we've had so far, and maybe we'll come up with a few more. Who knows? There are lots of very close games anticipated in the next couple of weeks as well. So 12 points all. It was Trinity who scored 2 tries, and unfortunately for Isipathana, their try scoring ability has been on the down low this season. They will be a bit concerned that they can't breach defenses. It's something that they've been known for in the past, but in answer to the goal and the try scored by Trinity, they managed to put over 4 penalties through Manuel Ribeiro, who really held his nerve towards the end of that game to actually get them level on the scoreboard, and an outstanding cover defensive tackle from Stefan as well in the dying minutes of that game to put the Trinity winger out into touch, which managed to preserve that 12 points all game that we saw. A really good game, well refereed, and also well contested in the right spirit of the game, the kind of thing that we want to talk about a little bit more often in the Singer Schools League, and one of the games that stood out for that kind of spirit, because we had the other games which weren't really in the same league at all. Next, we had St. Peter's taking on Kingswood. That was the first match on Friday, and in a torrential downpour, St. Peter's managed to win that game pretty easily at the end of the day. It was just a 10-point margin, but throughout the game, they really did dominate Kingswood, and Kingswood came back into that game because the conditions were just not feasible for running rugby. Shehan Lianapadran also needs to understand that the wet ball that he uses is going to be very, very different from the dry ball that he's used to kicking, and if conditions hold out this way, he's going to need to get more experience in handling that wet ball and kicking from hand from it as well. So that was the one area where I thought St. Peter's needed to brush themselves up. Also their defense, they managed to hold Kingswood to just a 1 try, but unfortunately for them, it didn't look like it was going to be a game that Kingswood were going to come and upset the Pete Wright. So Peters are managing to hold on. They didn't get the bonus point, but luckily for them, neither did Royal in their game against Wesley. So St. Peter's, a competent performance, seeming like they're keeping things within themselves. It looks like they can move a gear up. So that's something that St. Peter's fans will be hoping for, that they will be able to move up those 2 gears in the upcoming weeks, and they will be peaking at the right time for Joes and Royal. Speaking of Royal, we had Royal coming very close to their first loss of the season at the CRNFC grounds against a spirited Wesley outfit that managed to do what a lot of teams haven't been able to do this entire season. One was breach the Royal midfield defence, and the other one was to repel the driving maul that Royal have used to such good effect. There were at least 3 or 4 occasions where Wesley were able to actually push back that Royal maul, and that will give a little bit of confidence to the other teams facing Royal in the next couple of weeks, like Isipatana and St. Peter's. But despite that, Royal still managing to dominate up front, and it was off a rolling maul that they got the penalty. Really quick thinking from Nikhil De Silva to send Sasitha Siat over, just like they did in the second leg of the Bradby, that combination, and then they managed to combine for another couple of tries as well. Dulan Gunawardena being well, not exactly on point with the boot, but he did get the crucial ones over, especially the one penalty in the second half that took Royal into the lead and kept them there for that 18-17 win. But the best tries of the game, though, was scored by Wesley. That is unarguable. An outstanding breach from first phase from Murshid Zubair went straight through that 12 and 13 channel. Outstanding distribution from Walpita as well, and some superb decoy running that Royal completely fell for, and Zubair managed to draw and pass to Pereira. It was an unselfish move from him. Knew he didn't have the pace to finish it and just drew the fullback and passed the ball off to Pereira, who finished in the face of Sabit Feroz's excellent cover tackle. Just couldn't manage to drag him down in time. And then we had another try scored by Parantiran after a superb build-up from Wesley. Really patient build-up. They managed to find phase after phase of control. They even went several meters back from the gain line in order to find themselves some space and to find and spread that Royal defence. And it was probably one of the tries of the season, and Wesley have been really credited with some really excellent tries this season. So they managed to do that and didn't manage to get ahead at half-time, 17 points to 15, but Royal coming through and scoring just at one penalty in the second half, which was enough to give them the win, and they were almost on the line, almost scored, but the ball was held up with the final movement of the game. So that was how it finished. Lots of controversy about what happened off the pitch in that game, of course, and a lot of fingers being pointed towards Wesley, and rightfully so, because they couldn't control that crowd. Obviously, they didn't manage to keep even the Royal prefects behind the fences, but that all started off because they couldn't keep their own crowd behind the fences. It was really an ugly scenes that we saw, and a lot of the referees have come forward and said they are not going to be refereeing Wesley matches in the future as a temporary measure, of course, until the Schools Association does something about making Wesley accountable, as is the case for Zahira, as is the case for Malia. They were both schools have been wrapped on the knuckles, and the referees will not be officiating those games until the Schools Association takes some action as well. Not really finding out exactly what the issue is with regard to DS and Science as well, because there was a brawl after that match as well, but not really involving the referees that much. It was more among the spectators and the players. So that's something that needs to be addressed by the Schools Association as well. So lots of work to be done off the field, but there's some good action on the field at the moment. Let's look at what will happen next week. We have the major Milroy Fernando battle on the cards, the Royal versus Isipatana game, which is always a much anticipated encounter. At the moment, Royal are playing very well, of course, although they seem to have dropped off the intensity a notch or two in the last couple of games against Zahira and Wesley. I'm sure they are going to be able to raise it for their traditional rivals Isipatana, and they're sitting pretty on the leaderboard at 40 points at the moment, and Isipatana well behind them. They are on 31 points, but all that form goes out the window when you come to a high intensity game like this, and Isipatana knows this is one of their big games of the season. Royal have already played their big game of the season, which is the Bradby, of course, so they might be on a bit of a downward spiral, and if Isipatana can hit them while they're on the way up, that's something that they might be able to to try and capitalize on. But still, I think despite the fact that Royal may be suffering a little bit of a complacency, they're still good enough of a side to come away with a win, even if they're not playing at 100%. In the last few years, we've had Isipatana, who won 3 times to Royal's 1 win in 2015, and that was under Bhanuka Gamage when they were league champions as well. But in the other 3 years, Isipatana have won comfortably in 2014, which was a close win actually, 15-14, and in 16 and 17, Isipatana have been the champions. So Royal will have to pull this one back, as the tally stands 15-9 in favour of Isipatana, with 4 of the games being drawn. So you can see how closely contested this is, and we're expecting nothing less on the weekend as well. Competition in the Joe Pete encounter has always been fierce, and that has been on the cricket ground, but since of late St. Joseph's ascendancy has meant that the Joe Pete has become a really enthralling encounter in the rugby grounds as well. Looking at the last couple of times these two teams met, in 2017 we had St. Joseph's, who won comfortably by 25 points to 10, and the last time the teams met before that was in 2015, where St. Joseph's also won 17-10. But this time things might just be a little bit different. St. Joseph's may be the favourites because they're ahead on the kind of exposure that they have and the experience that they have, the players that they have, guys like Gamanu Chetia, Shamisha Viranga, Dulanjana Piatissa, Madhuranga, Rashayan Gunawardana, Tarindudi Always. All those guys have been very good individual players. Whether they can be cohesively as good as a Peterite unit is what we're going to see on the weekend when St. Peter's take them on. St. Peter's not a lot of big names, but they have a big forward pack, and they have Jason Karnaratna, who does a lot from that base of the scrum in controlling the game for them, and I think Vimaladasa at fly half has come a long way as well. Liana Pathirana at fullback, he's a guy that will be looking for points and territory from his boots, so I think it's going to be a really good encounter between St. Peter's and St. Joseph's, and Josephians and Peterites both will be hoping for the win, but I can't call it really. I think St. Peter's may have the upper hand because their line out is good, and their forward pack is probably a little bit more cohesive than St. Joseph's, but with the X factor that Joes have on their back division, we don't really know how things are going to go. So it's going to be an outstanding game of rugby, that much is for sure, for the Father Basil Veeratunga Trophy. Let's look at the points table and how it stands at the moment. With a couple of weeks left in the Singer Schools League 2018, Royal and St. Peter's still neck and neck on 40 points. St. Peter's were a little stressed when they didn't get the bonus point against Kingswood, but as it turned out, Royal didn't get theirs against Wesley either, so still on 40 points all, both teams unbeaten so far. St. Joseph's have lost a game, and that one was against Royal. They're on 37 points, and Isipatana, with that draw, have dropped a few points as well with that draw against Trinity. They're on 31 points, so the gap widening between St. Joseph's and Isipatana. Kingswood have moved themselves up the ranks a little bit, and Wesley, with that defeat, with that narrow defeat, they picked up a couple of bonus points, or at least one bonus point they picked up, but it wasn't going to be enough for them to leapfrog Kingswood or in the standings. Trinity and Zahira are still in 7th and 8th. Trinity tied with Wesley on 18 points, so that's looking like a ding-dong battle there in the 6th, 7th and 8th places as well. So that's the story from the points table. As far as our top try scorers and point scorers go, no change in the try scoring criteria, because we have Gamanu Chetia way out in front, and in the top 4 we have 3 wingers and a prop, and that just shows how well Himantha Hirushan has played in this season. He's been absolutely outstanding for Royal from close range. His ball carrying has been incredible, one of the hardest working forwards this season so far. He's picked up 5 tries, and he's tied with Vishwarana Raj, the Trinity winger, and Kavind Keshan, the Josephian winger, also, who have 5 tries, and none of them scored this weekend, but they still haven't been caught up. Well, actually none of the try scorers except Hirushan scored this weekend, which is why Hirushan is in the top 4. And in the top point scorers list, we have Shehan Lianapathirana way out in front on 69 points. Manilka Ruberu, we expected him to do a lot with the ball in hand, but he's done a lot with the boot as well, unexpectedly so. He's on 55 points. Dulan Gunawardana 1 point behind him on 54. And Gamanu Chetia with no kicking ability, but just with the tries that he scored, he's on 50 points in our point scorers list as well. Don't forget, you can look at all the stats in the Singer Schools League 2018. You can go back into the archives as well on stats.thepapare.com, your home for rugby statistics. Don't forget to join us for next week's action. We have, as I said earlier, Royal versus Isipatana for the Major Milroy Fernando Trophy. We have the Joes taking on the Peets for their traditional encounter for the Father Basil Veeratunga Trophy. We have Zahira and Wesley who will be travelling up to Kandy, and they will be playing Kingswood and Trinity College respectively as well. All those matches on the 26th, that's a Saturday, so it's going to be a busy Saturday for us here at the ThePapare. We hope it is for you as well. Thanks for joining the breakdown.
Isn't it time to grow up? Now you can with home loans, education loans and vehicle loans from DFCC Bank. DFCC Bank. Keep growing.